7 International Podcast, a podcast connecting Olympiacos fans from Melbourne to Baltimore, from London to Piraeus. We are 4 Olympiacos fans from every corner of the world, bringing you news and interviews of the team you love in English. With new episodes twice a week, you'll never lose the latest updates and stories of the team you love. This is our team, our city, and our land. Man Aoniro Trello. You're listening to the Gate 7 International Podcast.
Welcome to the Gate 7 International Podcast. I'm your host, Adi, riding solo today without the other boys, but we've got some of the Greeksoccer.com writers here, people from the old days, Olympiacosworld.com, Greeksoccer.com, hanging out, trying to bring some of those conversations to the forefront. We've got Perry here. You guys might recognize him from the No Fouls Given podcast. He joined us earlier. His handle used to be Greek Michael Scott. We've got crew here, Night Rue, for those of you that were part of the forums back then. And lastly, we have George, all the way. We actually have 2 people from Canada. Half of the Roundtable here is Canadian. And George was Thrilos fanatic. So Roundtable is going to be beginning. But first, we have, of course, our couple points of housekeeping. Guys, if you haven't checked it out yet, our Nikopolidi interview is live. It is up on YouTube with English subtitles for those of you who don't speak fluent Greek. And the Greek audio is available on all podcasting platforms. Additionally, our very own Lambro finally got to go to the airport, boys. He came in for the basketball signing, Mustafa Fall. So we're very excited for Lambro. He finally got his dream to go to the airport for the podcast. Check it out. The photos are up on Instagram and social media, as well as IGTV has a video of him being the first on scene. Thursday, July 1st, we're actually going to be joined by a player agent and get a look kind of at the day in the life of what a player agent goes through. This player agent also represents a couple players in Greece. So that'll be a fun conversation, kind of get some of the behind the scenes. On Sunday, this might end up getting postponed, but we were going to have Philip Vank, who's the technical director and coach of the Olympiakos DC Academy team, the UPSL team that just won their division playoffs. They're in the division finals, so we'll see if it happens because it looks like he's going to be busy next weekend. But I'll keep you guys posted with that. We're looking forward to having him on the show. AHEPA, guys. Again, if you are members of AHEPA, please get your buddies to come join, help us defend Hellenism. If you are interested in joining AHEPA, you can DM me if you'd like, or you can go to the ahepa.org site, get involved, meet other Greeks, and do your part to defend Hellenism. And before we get any further, I did want to give out a huge shout out. There's been some big news from yesterday. For those of you, especially that are basketball fans, you will know the legend himself, Vasilis Spanoulis, has retired. He has officially retired from the game. He will be sorely missed. All-time points and assists leader in EuroLeague history, Balkan Athlete of the Year, 2-time All-European Player of the Year, Vatican's World Athlete of the Year, EuroLeague MVP, and member of 8 all-European team selections. The accolades for Spanoulis are near endless. And the podcast just wanted to say a few things to Vasily. Vasily, you deserve to go out better in a season with fans in the stadiums that could appreciate you and support you. Our generation, for us, you're the greatest of all time. You're the GOAT. It has to be said. You chose to go across Athens to come to the port from our arch rivals. You did it your way. You wrote your own story, your own history, but more importantly, you rewrote Olympiakos' history. You led this team to its biggest successes over the past decade. Titles in Greece, which have been monopolized by Panathinaikos, back-to-back EuroLeagues, and the Intercontinental Cup. Thanks for all the memories. players and coaches, they come and go. Owners come and go as well. But legends like Spanoulis, they're here forever. Thank you again for everything you've done for this club, Spanoulis. And take a break. It's time for a break, buddy. And lastly, thank you to our sponsor, Piraeus International. Piraeus International has been helping Greeks ship to and from the motherland during COVID-19. Shipments to Greece are going out from Baltimore, Maryland every month during COVID-19. Fill any large U-Haul box, 18 by 18 by 24, send it to our friends in Baltimore, and it will be shipped to the port of Piraeus for only $50. Better yet, fill any large wardrobe box and send it for $100. Give them a call at 410-675-4696 or send an email to sales@piraeusintl.com. All right, now that we've got the housekeeping out of the way, it's time to jump into it. So I already did the introductions. How are we doing today, Perry? How you feeling this morning?
Well, you brought up some emotions for sure with Spanoulis. Just a quick note on that. I had the pleasure just before the pandemic to be there, and I had courtside seats for Olympiakos against Fenerbahce, and I got to see him become the all-time leading scorer in EuroLeague history. And I have an awesome video of that on my phone that I'd be happy to share that you can post on your platforms. But yeah, it was honestly, I was looking through some of the highlights on my phone yesterday, and honestly, some of the best memories that I'll have in terms of Olympiacos and basketball are going to be centered around that guy and some of his performances, both domestic and abroad. So there's that, and then I know you didn't mention it in the intro, but we kind of woke up. Well, here in Canada, we just woke up to some upsetting news about our guy Kostas Fortounis. I don't know if you're going to get into that later, so I don't want to spoil it. But basically, the guy has to deal with another pretty massive injury, and that was disappointing to hear. I know I just told my dad. My dad kind of left the house. He was not too pleased. So, but yeah, other than that, the Montreal Canadiens are in the Stanley Cup Finals. That's a big deal here in Montreal. And Yanni in Milwaukee has the series tied 1-1, and it looks like it just might be his year. So
let's hope.
Things to look forward to. We had two great games in the Euros yesterday, so I'm sure we'll get into that at some point. So
absolutely, absolutely. Crew, how you feeling, buddy?
Doing well. Thanks for putting this together. This is a great idea. It'd be it's good to kind of relive the old days of the forums. Yeah, obviously I woke up to the Fortounis news as well, and it stinks. There's really nothing else you can say. Apparently it's the other knee this time, right?
Yep. Well, that's how it happens. Well, we're gonna get into that. That'll probably be one of the first things we get into when we address some of the news. 100%, because that's devastating for the team. It really is. And lastly, George, how you doing, buddy? Nice and early for you guys.
Yes, I'm getting old. As I'm getting older, I'm waking up earlier. As you can see with my white hair, I think I'm the oldest one here now. Yeah.
I don't know. It might be close. I'm getting old myself.
How old are you guys?
I'm 31. I'm getting there. I'm 31 going on 70. Does that help?
I've never seen the other Montrealer. How is it that I never saw another Olympiacos in Montreal before?
That you got to ask Perry about that. Well,
I've been bouncing around. I was in DC for what, Adi, like 8 years on and off between undergrad and graduate. So
yep.
And then I lived in Toronto for a bit as well. So,
but you're in Montreal or Laval? Where were you born?
I was born in Montreal.
Park X.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Look, after you guys,
I think he's younger.
It's one or the other. Yeah.
How old are you?
30.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm 45. So.
Oh, you're not that old.
Yeah. The genes, the Kalamata genes from my mother's side.
There you go.
White hair from young.
There you go. Well, Perry brought it up a little bit already. Let's jump into it. The Fortounis injury. Guys, it looks like the same injury again, but this time on his other knee. Now, I can tell you from experience, because I've torn my ACL in both knees. Actually, the second time I did it, I tore every ligament in the knee except for my LCL, the lateral collateral ligament. So this injury is nasty. And when you do the first one, after the repair happens, it is very likely that's a very high percentage of players that do the other one as well, because you over-rely on the first one. So I wanted to get your guys' opinion on how you think this is going to affect us. Another year, basically. We can pretty much say a full season. Even if he does recover after 6 months, he's not going to feature regularly. It'll be just like the first time. He might feature a little bit in the second half of the season. What does this mean for the team? Is this going to be a big impact? So we'll start with Crew. Give us your thoughts on that.
All right. So if you turn the clock back a couple of years, right, when this happened, obviously there was shock. What the team did at that point was to move Valbuena from what he came in to be, which was more of a wide player, into more of a central role based on the formation that Martins was using at the time. So the question is, do we try to find that person in-house, or do we look for either a purchase or a loan for the year? I'm sure they're discussing that right now. Obviously Martins has gone back and forth between the 3-4-3 and the 4-2-3-1, depending on the situation in the play. I mean, who knows what his long-term plan with that? Obviously, we have a lot of possible transfers in and out that would help sort of shake out those questions. But I guess on some level, obviously it's horrible for the player. But I've never been 100% convinced how much on the same page Fortounis and Martins have been. And I'm curious to see which players are going to take advantage of the possible extra minutes.
That's something we have brought up on this podcast a lot, much to our, I guess I should say, regret, because obviously we think Fortounis is not just one of the most talented players in Olympiakos, but in Greece in general. So very good points you bring up there. George, how do you think this injury is going to affect us?
Well, the first thing, if I was, Pedro, is you go up to Marinaki and you tell him, listen, let's be honest. I think he's year to year now, right? So are we going for it? And I'm still going to be here because, Marinaki's he's not in the dark here. He knows with Pedro that if he's going to stay another year or whatever, we go for it? Do we spend the money? It's pandemic season too, like you guys have mentioned a lot of times that a lot of people are not thinking about. It's pandemic. They don't know now stadiums are going to be in Greece. They're going to be able to put people. Every dollar counts for Olympiacos. Are we going to make the Champions League to get that money? These are all things that I think are discussed more than just buying a player. Marinaki could get a player. Is he willing to spend $3-4 million to get a player to play this position?
Well, that is the question, right? That is the question. We know it's difficult. It's going to be interesting what we see. It was already the case that we were probably bringing in one of those inside winger types already. Now the question is, do we bring in another? And is it somebody that we loan? Is this going to be career ending for Fortounis? Number two, and it's not that he's an old guy, but he's up there. He's getting to that age where, there's not much. There's only a couple years of prime football left in him. What does this injury do? Perry, give us your thoughts, man.
So I don't necessarily go to career ending just because you look at Madalo. That's the kind of the first player that I think of in recent history, at least in terms of Greek football. that's gone through something similar. And Madalo, since the second injury, has been very solid for AEK, whatever your thoughts may be on AEK and him as a player. The next thing that I think of is that we have to endure another campaign of Greece trying to qualify for an international competition with this love affair between Van Schip and Bacaseta playing the 10 with no one to contest it. And it makes me sick to my stomach, to put it lightly, on a Sunday morning. And then at the end of the day, it sucks. He's a big part of the team. How many times did we see Olympiacos kind of in the mud in terms of creativity and offense last year, and you'd throw in Fortuny, and in the next 5 minutes, it's like a switch goes off, and all of a sudden, it's like, okay, we're finding some space, we're creating chances. So, and just having worked in football, having worked with players, just any time that an injury that sets back someone for any kind of time, especially when it's 3, 4, 5 months. I mean, this is their livelihood. This is how they earn a living. Like, I hate seeing that. It doesn't matter who they play for or what they do. Just it sucks, but the show must go on, and Olympiacos is going to have to find answers, and they're going to have to find them quickly because they got another friendly today, and they're going to be playing some qualifiers in the next month. So,
Yeah, we'll definitely see. We got a comment here from Stratos Petrakopoulos. Very sorry for Fortuny, really unlucky, but I think it is not going to have an impact on the team. He has not been doing the difference lately, and for the level Olympiacos wants to reach, players like him are not going to take you there. All this most quality player in Greece, and Olympiacos has become more a cliche than mirroring the pitch in reality. You know what? We have been saying that he is the best player in Greece for so long. I guess I understand. And the point that maybe it doesn't impact the team that much, there's something to that because Martins has been building this team. I don't want to say in spite of Fortuny, but independent of Fortuny, and we've seen that. Questions we've had on this podcast before that Costa Labro and Peter and I have discussed. Where does he start to fit in? Because he's a natural 10. He's been playing as this inside winger under Martins, but just to slot him in. Now, I will say this, in terms of the team impact, I know the last half of the season, especially the last couple of months, people were very upset with how passive he looked on the field. But I'm going to equate him to a player that in the NFL, in the National Football League, that Baltimore used to have as a quarterback, Joe Flacco. We used to call him Joe Cool, okay? And he got so much flack in this city because he was the same. No emotions, zero, which is good and bad. But some people are like that. Some people don't wear their heart on their sleeves like that. Not everyone has that same passion. And I don't think it's fair to get upset with a player because he doesn't wear his heart on the sleeves. You want to see that. It's more entertaining for us. It's easier for us to see. But at the same time, I don't begrudge it. As far as the difference on the field, statistically, I have to disagree. On a per 90-minute basis, there's very few players that come close. Guys, Fortuny, in a season where maybe everyone thought he didn't have the difference-making capability that he used to, still led Greece in goals and assists combined, assist leader, second assists, you name it. We talked about how good Masouras has been for this team. Only Fortuny could match his metrics on a per-game basis. Maybe not on a whole, obviously, because Masouras played way more minutes over the course of the last 2 seasons and so forth. But Kostas Fortounis has the best metrics on a per-game basis. Any way you slice it. I can go through everything. I'm not going to do it now, but I've done it before. He is the best statistically for this team. Nobody else comes close, except maybe El Arabi for goals. But that's it. That's it. Crew, you had a thought.
The one thing that I've always thought about with with Fortuny is whether or not he should have left after the year he had with Marco Silva, and what his career would have looked like if he had moved on, and not moved on like laterally, moved on taking that next step and that next challenge. And it's an interesting thought experiment because I could see it going in, like taking it to the next level, or I could see it in a flop, come back to Greece within a year and a half.
Sitarides.
Yeah.
No, guys, I'm sorry. As much as I love Fortuny, and Podense said it when he left for Wolves, the mentality is not there for the next level. That's the fact, and that's why he stayed in Greece, and he knows it. And that's what is so infuriating with so many Olympiacos fans, especially on days when he's not getting it going. It's because we know what he's capable of. He knows what he's capable of. Everyone knows what he's capable of. There's a reason that Pep Guardiola went to him after City beat Olympiacos the second time and had a chat with him, because people recognize his talent. But you can't. There's only so far talent can get you, and he just never had the mental fortitude to take it to the next level, and that's okay. If that's what he wants to be the big dog in Greece. That's great. But to Cruz's point, it always will leave you with what if he had gotten to West Ham United? What if he had gone to the Prem or Spain? Yeah, we'll always wonder that, but the mentality just wasn't there for that, unfortunately.
What are his wages?
Fortuni's one of the higher earners.
A lot more than mine.
He's close to 2 million. He's close to 2 million a season.
This is the question I want to ask. If I was to see Marinaki and Pedro together, I would tell them, like, why? You know what? If you're gonna keep this guy and make him come in the last 20 minutes of a game, like, it's better to spend the money on somebody who's gonna play full time. And we're not a club like Man U to have super subs with those wages.
To 100% be fair, right. Though, when he signed that contract, he was coming off one of his best seasons, and Martins, if I'm not mistaken, was just coming in.
Yes.
And then, just like now, preseason, he tore his ACL, and it set him back. And so, I mean, say what you want about the wages. I'm sorry, but he earned those.
Yes.
He earned those wages.
One last thought before we move on to our next segment. I'm just going to say something that Costa has said. Costa Levoyani, the other host of the Gate 7 International podcast. He is a village boy from Kalabaka. That's the mentality you've got, guys. That's what it is. He loves it here. He's a homebody. He loves Greece. And he this is where he's comfortable. This is where he's staying, for better or for worse, whatever that means for his for his career. That's what we've got. So moving on, we have another issue, another transfer area that's going to be very interesting. As we've been reporting on the podcast, our sources as well as many outlets have been discussing that Sa is pretty much out the door. Wolves are selling Rui Patricio to Roma. And their first choice, and this is pretty much done. It's Jose Sa. It's just a matter of when. So then the question becomes, with Jose Sa out, we've been very strongly linked with a couple of goalkeepers, two in particular. Alphonse Areola from PSG and Tomas Vaclik from Czech Republic. Now, the Areola rumor, that would be a loan. Specifically a loan in which we would be required to pay about half, maybe 60% of his wages. He's been reported to be making $4 million a season for PSG. There have been some reports that mentioned when he made a contract or when he had a contract renewal that he was at $8 million. I have no idea if that's true. I think $4 million is the correct amount. So we would have to pay about $2.5 million for the season to bring him in. But Vaclik would be free. As far as his wages, we'd probably be paying him close to $2 million as well. So the question is, With Tsolakis coming up, the phenom goalkeeper in our academy, and we're about to get about 10 to 12 million for Jose Sa. Do we bring in Areola on a year loan, see how Tsolakis develops with Christensen also in there? Or do we bring in Vaclik for free? I just want to point out one quick thing before I get you guys' opinion. Vaclik has some very interesting injury history. Nothing crazy. He hasn't missed more than 30 games in the last 7 seasons. But the commonality with the injuries is always his knee. Knee here, knee there. I think there was a hip at one point. But it's a lot of little knee injuries. So I want your thoughts on that. We'll start with George this time.
Well, like our buddy Mr. Nikopolidis said yesterday, the goalkeeping is a whole different beast. And we got to get it right because you don't want to throw him in the fire. How old is he? 17, 18? Playing for Olympiakos.
18.
All the pressure in the world. You know, this guy's going to... we end up losing a 1-0 game to Larissa, and this guy's going to get killed in the newspapers. Can he handle it? We don't even know his attitude. Is he strong-willed? I know he's still young. Some people are more, ice. Some people are fragile at that age. I understand like Nikopolidis was protecting the names of the players and this, that. But the goal situation is they got to get a veteran that also is willing to teach or willing to accept that he's the goalie of the future, you know? Which, I don't know none of these guys' backgrounds. PSG and the other guy, what's his name?
The Czech, he's the Czech keeper.
And they're characters. What kind of characters are these guys? These are things that are important too. You don't want to bring a guy in that they're going to play Tsolakis in a Greek Cup game and he's going to go crazy. Like, I came here to play and, you know.
Yeah. No, yeah. And that's kind of one of the tough things is, especially us as we're trying to figure out these players coming in, if they're good fits, we don't see that. It's difficult for us that aren't in the training facilities, that aren't seeing the players, the mentality. So it's always very difficult to figure out if what they have, are they going to be a problem? Or are they not going to be a problem? That's difficult for us. Perry, what do you got on this goalkeeper situation?
So I mean, for me, it's easy, and my background is working in an academy, and my academy that I used to work for just promoted 3 17-year-olds to the first team here in Canada. You go with Tsolakis. You had to throw him in at 17 years old in a cup semi-final, I think it was, first leg against PAOK in Tuba. And the kid, he conceded 3 goals, none of which were his fault. And you still ended up going to the final and winning it. But in terms of nerves, for me, he's proven that he's got it. And, now's the time to play him. He does well for a year, 2 years. I mean, you're going to sell him for a boatload of money because he's definitely on other teams' radars in terms of talented goalkeepers in Europe. That being said, it probably being Martin's last year in Greece and it kind of being the last shot at a double and, that European championship, whichever one it may be that they have kind of on their list of trophies to accomplish. I don't see them going with an 18-year-old. I don't think Martins would risk his success on a kid, no matter how much he believes in him. So in terms of the timeline and where Olympiakos is at, either of the 2 goalies that you mentioned are good options. One, because of, like you said, the injuries to one, Tsolakis will probably still get in there, which is kind of a terrible thing to say. But and then in terms of Areola, he was a highly touted. He was very similar to Tsolakis in France as a kid coming up. So it'll be interesting what they do. And then Christensen, I know he impressed the club with some of his performances late in the year last year. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does in preseason.
Yep, it really will. And I think you're spot on with that. We know that Martins is very, very conservative with this stuff. So I don't think he's going to take that risk, not to his career, not even for the career of Tzolakis as well. Crew, before we move on to the next segment, what are your thoughts on this goalkeeper situation?
I agree with Perry. I was going to make a lot of the same thoughts. And it's one of those things where, and like you said, since we don't know what's going on in the training room and the practices, et cetera, the decision has to be made and by people that know more than we do regarding what Tzolaki is actually made of and what is the best plan should be for him. If it is to get another year of tutelage, so be it. Now, whether that tutelage should come under someone who's on loan or someone who's purchased, who's going to be here for a couple of years, doesn't really matter as long as they choose the right person for the goalposts. I'm fine with it. It's gonna be sad to see Sa go, but we kind of all knew it was coming, and it's nice to have yet another ambassador out there in the EPL about what Olympiacos can do to players' futures.
I agree with you there.
Roberto wants to come back.
No.
No, I think that ship has sailed, boys. I don't know. I don't know especially if that were me in the front office, I don't know if I'd take that. I don't know if I want him back, to be perfectly honest with you.
Listen, guys, I want to play goalie for Olympiacos too, But we need someone that can actually do it at a high level.
Yep. Now, one of the we got two more transfer topics to discuss, or transfer/returning player. Next one coming up. So Pierre Kunde, guys, we did a deep dive on him. I did a deep dive on him last week. How do you think he's going to slot in here? For those of you that know the player, that listen to the deep dive, just want your thoughts what you think this guy's going to be. He's come in. A lot of people are saying he was like the Madi replacement. I don't think he is like an Adi Madi. I think he's a little bit different player, closer to Guilherme. What are your thoughts on this? We'll start with Crew this time.
So thanks for the deep dive. I'm actually not overly familiar with this player. So the deep dive was, at least I'm very thankful for it. But I don't think we're going to find a completely natural Madi replacement. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's, we kind of struck gold with Madi, and to just say, oh, we're just going to find this other player and it's going to be a 1-for-1 swap. I just don't see it. So if it is closer to Guilherme, that's fine, because I was a huge fan of Guilherme. So that would be fine by me. But I just hope that he just fits and Martins makes it work. I mean, the one thing that we've seen with transfers, at least under Martins, is that he generally doesn't do plug and play. If you remember when Guilherme came over, it actually took him, probably a month and a half to 2 months to start playing regularly. Yes. I can see something like that happening again. And I could see also about 25 articles on the Greek sports websites complaining about why he's not playing in the month of September until he starts playing regularly, I don't know, the first or second week of October or something like that. So, obviously I'm cautiously optimistic, I guess would be the best way of saying it, about his fit with the team.
Yeah, I think you're right here. And then Nick Minimenos checking in from Melbourne, Australia. Thank you so much, Nick, for listening. Has a nice comment here that I agree with, at least from what I've seen so far. Stronger, faster, a little bit better ball control, and his passes are extraordinary. The one thing I will say that Guilherme, in the film I watched, Guilherme's vision is a little bit better. Guilherme, if you guys remember, one of the reasons that he was just so electric for us and so great for us in transition, winning the ball back, getting the ball, switching the field of play immediately, spurring a counter. I mean, Guilherme always saw that. I mean, quicker than even us looking behind from the screen, and we have the view of the whole thing, and he's on the field and he's seeing those runs before we are. That's what Guilherme brought to the table. Now, Kunde is faster. 100%. great technical ability. So I think he's going to have impact. But Crew, I'm so glad you brought that up, because a lot of people forget that in the beginning it was Bouchalakis and Mari that was in the midfield that they were tinkering with, and it was Bouchalakis Camara. Then Martins transitioned to that Camara Guilherme double pivot when we were running the 4-2-3-1. Very good point you brought up. George, what are your thoughts on the Pierre Kunde transfer?
Well, I don't know much about the player, but the one thing that always scares me the most when we get transfers is, I'm sure you guys are going to know, is their mentality coming to Greece, or what do they expect? You know, a lot of times they come expecting easy. A lot of times they come in thinking they're better than the league. Do they adapt to the Greek culture? I remember even Rivaldo. Imagine he came at 35 years old, played in Europe his whole life, and I remember it was after the Liverpool game that he said that he didn't know how big Olympiakos was when he saw the fans in Liverpool. Like, imagine now these guys coming here thinking, oh, Greece, whatever, I'll come here, I'll move on to the next league, and the pressure that they get from here. And can they adapt? You know, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't use it properly, it means nothing. How many players have we gotten over the years that were very talented and didn't pan out? A lot of great players.
Yep. And this is something we've discussed. All of our player guests have come on and said, hey, I mean, when you come to Olympiakos, there is the situation here, the atmosphere is like none other. It is not comparable. So yeah, you're absolutely right. As far as what Kunde wants, he made it pretty clear that he's here for Champions League. He wants to play in Champions League. He wants to play in Europe. When he did his press interview, his entrance interview, that definitely was something that was on the forefront of his mind. Perry, give your thoughts on Pierre Kunde before we move on to the last transfer segment.
Yeah, and in fairness about Guilherme, that year that he came over, he had no preseason with Deportivo La Coruña, and when he came over to Olympiacos, he had missed the preseason, so he was playing catch up, which is why we didn't see him very much in that first month. But I think he was always in Martin's plan. In terms of Kunde, my dad had mentioned to me that this was a player that they had coveted for a couple of years now. I'm not sure if that's accurate. You guys may know better than me on that front, but we kind of alluded to it when we were talking about the Fortounis injury. I feel like that injury is more of an opportunity for Martins to explore more of that 3-back that we saw late in the year. Explore more with a 2-striker formation. And when you play with either of those, you kind of need 2 bodies in the midfield to do the work of what 3 would do in another midfield. And I feel that based on what I've read about Kunde, I haven't seen him play yet, but based on what I've read, it seems like he's the kind of player that you could stick next to a Bouchalaki or an Mvila, and you'll have a solid midfield with just 2 bodies doing the work for possibly 3. So I think that's where my mind went when I saw this transfer. It's like it's just another tool for Martins to kind of tinker with his lineup, whether he wants to go with a 3-back, a 4-back. Does he want to play with 2 strikers? Does he want to play with 1? And so, you know, for a manager to have those options, it's kind of just why not give him all the tools he wants, and you know, the pressure's on him after to kind of just make the puzzle fit. So and that being said, I also, it's fun to note, I think he's the 3rd Cameroonian to ever play for Olympiacos after Jean de Macoun, who was also a solid midfielder. He came over during the Valverde years, and the other was Gaetan Bong, who ended up actually having a decent career in England as a left back, and he still plays. Yeah. So, yeah.
Let me ask you guys.
That's where I'm.
You guys prefer a team built on every team or that we have a main guy to score? What do you guys prefer?
What do you mean?
A team built offense, or that we have a main guy that's built around the main guy?
I look, for me, I don't have a preference personally. Obviously, I prefer something that's a little bit more well balanced, but as long as we have the appropriate pieces and we go full into whatever build that we're trying to go for, that's what I want to see. I want to see us build around a system and jump into the system. That's what I care about. But I also care that we have a manager that can make adjustments and doesn't just stick with the same thing when things aren't working. One that comes to mind is Michel. Michel refused to change. He ran out of ideas, but he just kept hoping the same thing would work, and it didn't. And that's what led to the end of his tenure. I much prefer a versatile coach that's ready to adapt systems like Martins. Martins, he made it clear his favorite system is the 4-4-2. But for Olympiacos, he changes based on what he thinks is the best based on the talent that we have. And that's what I prefer. I could care less whether we stick with what, as long as we're going into it and we have a team that's adaptable. That's what means a little bit more to me. Zach Carr, thank you for checking in. Hello, buddy. Now, moving on, there's one last transfer segment, or returning player, I should say, that I wanted to discuss with you guys. He's somebody that I've written about. He's somebody that we make fun of a lot on the pod. We've talked about. What are we going to do with this nerd? Pepe. Guys, he popped up in the friendly yesterday in a midfield pairing with Thiago Silva. Snore. Thiago Silva, I can't believe he's still on this team, but we're going to move on from that. This segment isn't about him. Pepe. So if you watched the friendly yesterday, whether you have or not, but either way, does Pepe have a place in this team? What do you think he's going to do? We'll start with Crew this time.
Yeah, I've noticed the teasing of Pepe over the course of the podcasts, and I'm willing to give him another shot. I think last year, didn't he come in injured? Am I remembering that correctly? So
he did, yes. Also the birth child.
Okay. So, put those two things together. I think you have a situation where it wasn't just the best situation from the start, especially for a younger player. Obviously, Martin saw something in Pepe. So I have no problem with giving it another go, just to see if there's a true place for him. There's no downside here. And I think that even if it doesn't work out from an investment point of view, I think we can probably sell him for what we bought him for based on the fact that he's still young.
Perry.
I thought he did well on loan at Falamisao, where we sent him. He played in basically all their games in the second half of the season, which was good for him to get those games under his feet, and because he wasn't going to get that chance at Olympiacos in the second half of the season. And honestly, the way you bring in Kunde, and I just don't see where he fits right now on this team. And so I think they'll send him on loan again. There's not much more to it. I mean, there's a lot of bodies in that midfield right now, and unless he starts to wow in training and the preseason games, which if that was the case, we'd kind of start to see articles written about it on Gazeta, and it doesn't seem to be the case. So, yeah, I think he's going to end up going on loan, and that's not a bad thing. Maybe he goes on loan somewhere. He has a great season. They want to pick it up, and it might be one of those transfers that Olympiacos, the guy plays 2-3 games for Olympiacos, and they end up selling him with more than what they purchased him for. And Olympiacos has actually done really good business in the last few years of players that either play very little or don't even play, but they go on loan, they do well, and they still end up making money off of the player, which is good business as well. So,
Absolutely. This club, I mean, look at Igor Silva, guys. We got $1 million from Igor Silva. Does anybody even remember him?
Oh my gosh, Silva.
We got $1 million and 15%, I think it was, from Kuipers. That's the type of club we are, guys. Players that other people would view as flops, that other teams would have to pay to get rid of in Greece, we still get money for. And that's the level we've gotten to. Now, George, give us your thoughts before we move on Pepe.
My response is that's why I could never be a manager, because I'm too impatient. This is all, I think, on Martins. If they saw something in him, is he a good guy in the dressing room? Is he a good team player? I mean, sometimes listen, like, it's like I always say about the local kids. I always believe, like, if you're gonna get a foreigner, he has to be at least 1.5 times better than the Greek local kid. Don't just sell a player just to bring another guy in and then hope. I mean, with him, I'm 50-50. If they were to get rid of him and get somebody, I wouldn't be shocked. But if they were to keep him, it all depends now what the Martins have seen in him. But if they see some good in him and they could work it out, do it. But just don't get another player and then the guy's a flop. And then we're like scrambling to get a replacement last minute.
That's a fair point, I think. Now, moving on into the next segment, before we get into the Ethniki Omada, which you guys I know are dying to talk about, what's your expectations of Olympiakos this season? What Martin's probably last season of his contract, no discussion of any type of renewal. I doubt it happens. He's probably going to move on to bigger things after this. But what are the expectations for this season? We'll start with Perry this time.
Well, because you mentioned it, I think the progression for Martins is, I think the hope for the Olympiacos family, if you will, is that Nottingham Forest go to the top flight in England, and he would move over there and get a crack at the EPL coaching at Nottingham. But that's just my opinion. In terms of expectations this season, listen, I think you're going to have some reaction from your competition in Greece. They've gone and hired their managers, and they're going to come back, and you're going to, as every year, you're going to have a target on your head, which is okay. I think the expectation is still that you're going to go after the double. At the very least, win the league and, get to that cup final, and anything can happen in a one-game final. But I think the real focus is starting to shift for this, this plan, that this regime with Karembe and Martins is really, let's try to make a go of it in Europe. That being said, if we're being realistic, I don't think that they have a chance at doing anything in Champions League other than participating in the group stage. And so the more realistic goal would be to make a run in Europa League. And I've always said that, and I say it proudly, Olympiakos is a strong Europa League team. That's the reality of it. Can we dream? Yeah, of course. If Olympiacos were to play in the round of 16 of the Champions League, I'm all for it, because that's just another level of prestige, and it's another level to be able to talk about, especially in the modern game of football, where it's very difficult to get to that stage when you're coming from a league like what Greece has become. But my expectation is go for the double in Greece, and I'd like to see them take a step further in Europe. And so for me, anything short of make your way to the Europa League and make your way to at least the semifinal. Anything other than that is just, what have we been working towards the last couple of years? We're just kind of stuck in the same spot. I want to see them take it a little bit further. And I think they have the manager to do it. I think it's just a matter of, being a little lucky with your draws and executing when the time comes.
Good point. Crew, what are your thoughts?
We agree again. Obviously the league championship is the first priority, and it's going to be an interesting year to see how things go there, especially with fans returning. With regards to Europe, I'm a little worried, Champions League wise, not from a qualification point of view, because I think we should qualify. Obviously, anything can happen over 2 legs, but we're going to be in pot 4, which is going to make things a little bit tougher, especially because the draw can be that much more difficult. So the worry, I guess, while the money's great, don't get me wrong, but the worry is if the draw does go sideways, you don't even have Europa to look forward to in 2022. And obviously, I'm not saying that just because their draw doesn't come out great, we come in last, but just from a strictly team budget and just chances point of view, you have to figure it's going to be a little bit more difficult. But I would agree. I would, I don't know if I would say semis, but I would say at least the final 8 for Europa would be the next step. Obviously the draws there can be all over the place. As we've seen, we seem to have some affinity of getting Arsenal too often. But I think that there is a run in this team, and my hope is that we can just take that next step.
George.
Protathlima first, like they said too, final 8, whichever Euro tournament we are, it has to be the goal. I mean, Pedro's gone, and I read a few months ago that even Carambu, I don't know if you guys read, I think it was on Gazeta, I read it, that he was talking about like, that I think it was France or Spain that he wants to be involved in the team there. So it's like he's a big part of the team. If Carambu leaves, who knows who else will leave with him? That's a whole different hold in management. Who do we bring in? Who replaces them? We got to go for it. Marinaki too. He said, how many years he's been now with the team? Has he had the team?
This is year 4.
No, Marinaki.
Oh, Marinaki's 10 years.
10 years. So he had.
We're on year 11.
20-year plan. You remember? He says 20 years, and after that, so there's 9 more, almost 10 years left. So I think he's gonna be pushing more and more now. I think he's gonna, I don't think he's gonna want to have any regrets. I know he's gonna want to have a team budget, have a good Olympiakos financially, but I think he's gonna go for it. I'm not saying Roman Abramovich type, but it's time. Olympiacos, he built it. We're financially secure. He's got to start pushing a little bit more now. So we have to expect more.
I think you guys do have a point there. I think you're absolutely right. I think the expectations, especially for Martin's last season, will be pretty high. I know for me, I'm not going to lie, I was definitely disappointed. The double for me was my expectation this season. I wanted the double despite everything that happened. So I am disappointed by that. We did push decently far in Europa League this year. Unfortunately, we couldn't pull it away with Arsenal. We didn't have the correct pieces to start the season, but we built on that in the middle of the season, and we looked better afterwards. But you know what? Round of 16, we got to that point. I hoped we could go further, and we didn't. And so I have to say this season was a little bit of a disappointment for me because we didn't win the double. But that's going to be my expectation next season. We win the double. And if we don't make it beyond at least round of 16 Europa League, I have to question what we've been building for. Now, that will be tough, especially if we do lose Madi, if we lose Sa, and if we lose Semedo, which has been reported as well. So we'll see what happens. Well, I want to move on. We have a couple more quick segments before we close things up here. The next thing we're going to get onto is the conversation everybody loves to have with the Ethniki Omava boys. Specifically, the question will be, if the Ethniki is going to qualify for the World Cup. What do you guys think based on the friendlies we had against Belgium? The friendly that we just had as well against, oh my God, I'm already forgetting who we played against. Norway. And then now with how Sweden looks, we're going to be playing Sweden very soon in the upcoming qualifications in a couple months. They look good. So what are your thoughts? We're going to start with George this time. Does the Ethniki qualify for the World Cup the way things seem now?
With that manager, no. I can't stand him. He's useless. That guy's a nobody trying to play Otto. I don't know where this guy's getting his character-wise. I don't know if he was like that before. Like, I'd love to say who hired him. Did you know any background of this guy? Like, you know, like me, if you meet me after 5 minutes watching a game, you're going to know that I'm a fanatic. I'm crazy. I'm a wacko. Like, don't hire this guy, George, to lead the team. You know, I can love Olympiacos all you want, but I can't coach a team. I'm the guy, like, I see you playing bad for 5 minutes, I'll put you on a bench. Okay, bring another player. I don't understand this guy unless he's a good actor. He through the process of the interview process, he said all the right things. That guy he's a total joke from the beginning, man. Like, I don't think the players respect this guy. Honestly, I mean, you play to win Ethniki, then you see your top players not playing. Like these players, you know, there's a small window to win. You know, like this is not Brazil where you could tell one of the guys, get out of here. We have somebody to replace you. This is Greece. I don't know. I just I have no confidence in this guy.
I don't either, and it's something I've been very vocal with. Crew, what are your thoughts on whether or not the Ethniki will qualify?
No. You know, there was a glimmer of hope after the first qualifying match. But we tossed it away in the second qualifying match. And look, could it happen? Sure. I just don't see it. I don't see it with this manager. I don't see it with this roster. You know, it's if you take a look at this roster right now, how many of them would even make the roster for the Euro 2014? Like not starting, like even make the roster. That is an issue, and you know, not to pin it on the players that we have at our disposal right now, but there's just not that many players that are difference makers, and smaller countries go through these. They have that golden generation, then there's a lull, and the hope is that we can build another golden generation. But right now, the answer is no.
Perry, you've been waiting. Let it rip, man.
So first and foremost, with John Van Schip, say what you want about the guy. He's played for Ajax. He's played for the national team of Holland. He's a disciple of Johan Cruyff. And to be fair, his first couple of games in charge, I saw some things that I really liked from our national team. And then somewhere along the lines, it all, for a lack of better term, went to shit. I was completely disgusted about the way that they've handled the whole Socrati, Manolas, Siova situation. For me, a national team, a federation, and a manager, they make it work with their top talents. And it seems like at every juncture, they're going against them rather than trying to work with them. And that's been, it's been such a turnoff. To the point where I no longer want to watch national team games. That's what it's become. Are they going to qualify? No, they're not. Is there a path for qualification? Absolutely. You need to beat Spain in Greece. You need to go in Sweden. You need to win. You need to beat Sweden in Greece. You have to not drop points against Georgia, for the love of God. And also, I don't know if you guys have seen Sweden at the Euros, but they're kind of a good team, and they're kind of a much better team than Greece. And you know, I think Zagoraki coming in now, I think he's got to hit the reset button. I was disappointed that when he did take over, he was allegedly going to be letting Van Schip go in their first meeting. That didn't happen. I think that was a big mistake. I think that was a mistake. And I know we're getting the dollar bill signs, but I don't care. I mean, you have to hit the reset button. I would have loved to see someone come in who has more of a understanding of the Greek mentality and the Greek players and the Greek league. And it's been trash for so many years now, and it's disappointing.
Can I ask you? Can I say something? Just to interrupt you. Sorry. Most teams have veterans and this that. You know, like a lot of sports teams. Any sport,
Yeah, we have Zavella. We have Zavella.
But that's what I'm saying. Like the GM comes to a lot of times it comes to the top, the veterans and talks. It happened to the Montreal Canadiens a few years ago when they got rid of the captain. Like, sat them down, like the coach, and are you guys happy with the coach? Talk. Who are you gonna go talk to in Greece now? Which players are you gonna go sit down and go listen to and talk about Van Schip? Like, who?
Well, guys, Luca Vidra still plays, huh?
Oh God. Well, look, I'm going to say this. There were the same Greek fans, and I do want to point this out, the same Greek fans that thought we played a lights-out game against Spain, where, by the way, guys, we had 0 goal threat. The goal we scored was not of our making. We got lucky. Let's be honest. It was lucky. We drew a penalty. That was it. And the same people that thought that Greece played the best game ever against Spain, the national team was back, chastised the Swedish team for playing the same way against Spain. And guess what, guys? Sweden actually had multiple opportunities in the final third. They had multiple attacks. They actually generated a real XG, 0.6 to be exact, compared to our 0 with 4 opportunities on the goal. And we had zero, literally a 0. No goal threat, maybe 1 or 2 tacks, 0 shots, period, besides the penalty. So I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. Even, a friendly against half of a starting lineup against Belgium doesn't mean anything to me, especially when we know that JVS plays with some cool lineups in friendlies only to revert back to Backpacetas in the middle of these games, which, by the way, guys, in that game against Spain, Backpacetas had 2 forward passes in 80 minutes. Just going to say that. Wow. Anyway, moving on. This Swedish team is infinitely better than we are. It has to be said. They are better than we are.
But they're always up there, Sweden. And people use the population as an excuse. The population of Sweden is how much? It's not bigger than Greece.
That I can pull up for you.
They're always up there, Sweden, man. And you know what? No matter what teams go into tournaments, nobody bombs them. Everybody sweats to beat Sweden. They might not win a tournament, but they're always there. They're always solid. You got to sweat your ass to beat this team. And Greece is like, it's a joke now. Like, I don't understand. Completely fell off. I can't
10 million.
Greece. 10 million.
Population of 10 million in Sweden. So very similar. Very similar.
Yeah, but you don't even have to look at the population. Just look at the clubs that their top players play at and where our top players play at. And
exactly.
That says it all, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, it said it all when Van Schip in that one interview, when he was talking about players playing in Turkey, that it's, top competition. Ignored the Champions League that Olympiakos players were playing in. Oh, they're playing in Turkey. That said everything to me about them.
What did he say about Georgia?
No, it wasn't Georgia. It was Moldova.
No, but what did he say?
Top defense.
Yeah.
Remember that.
Moldova.
Amazing defense. Again, I'm going to stand by what I've said before. So far, JVS's tenure's been a failure. Look, you could be undefeated all you want, but 10 draws, 5 draws, and barely beating minnows means nothing. Like, how many teams have you heard of with that were undefeated but didn't win anything? Do you remember those teams? No. Tom Brady went undefeated in the NFL here, but didn't win the Super Bowl. Do people still remember the undefeated season? No.
To be fair, I think that's how Portugal won the last Euro. I think they didn't win a single game in regulation. But it's okay. We'll give them a pass because they're coached by Fernando Santos.
Exactly.
So,
True.
Will he come back to Greece, you think?
No.
Not unless they lift the smoking bans.
There have been countless calls, articles, whatever you want to call it, about building a better structure for youth in Greece in order to sort of mature, improve, etc. We still don't have it. I believe even Otto called for it 20 years ago. So that's part of the issue. Sweden and Greece populations are right about the same. If you look back at Iceland from a few years ago, they actually created a whole network to improve sort of that grassroots level of soccer, football, depending on where you are. Until there really is that commitment, you're going to need that magical run or that magical mix of players for it to happen for Greece. And that's just the fact. I mean, if you look at the Euro 2004 squad, the seeds were there because at the under 18 European championships, they went pretty far. I think at the U21 championships, they went pretty far. And so, you had a pool of talented players.
Sorry, let me. I've said this to many people, and many people have told me, you know what, you're kind of right. When it comes to soccer, we're like that. Why in basketball, we always create superstars? The teams are always good in basketball. The players are super. Why the soccer? I think the soccer program has to look at the basketball program and say, hey, man, these guys are every year they're producing players. Why is soccer like this? Portugal has a little bit more population than us, and they're time and time again great teams, great players. It's something to do with the like you guys said, the structure in Greece, because basketball is thriving.
Crew, I love that you mentioned Iceland because I actually did a deep dive on that when I was doing my master's, and the biggest thing that Iceland did was they invested in coaching, and you look at how many players, youth players, per coach, and it was such an anomaly in terms of every other European country. And so you look at what the coaching is at the youth level in Greece, and I know for a fact from conversations I've had with youth coaches in Greece, you get to the youth levels in Greece and they're looking at the results rather than the player development. As early as 15, U15, they're expected to win the league. Guys, what does it mean to win the U15 championship? The answer is absolutely nothing. And so there needs to be a shift in focus in Greece of this, like, yes, okay, have a winning mentality, have a winning culture, but the focus can't be on winning at the youth levels. It has to be on the development and the individuals and the players. And unfortunately, the way that things are in Greece, that's how it is. And George mentioned Portugal. Portugal's the complete opposite. It's about development, and that's why you have these strong federations that have a plan and they know how to execute it. And unfortunately, Greece is stuck in the mud, and corruption has always been a thing.
You're sad when Canada has more world top players than Greece.
that does speak. That does speak volumes. Yeah. Well, we can only hope that, let's see what Zagorakis does. He's made some interesting moves already. Some stuff I agree with, some stuff I don't, in some capacity. But at the very least, he is a football guy. He is a former player. He is not just a suit or a cafe owner that just decided to jump in and run football because he's bored. So we'll see what happens. I think he has the right ideas in mind. I hope that some of the off-the-field allegiances don't affect him, but we'll see what happens. We do have one more quick segment before we close things up. Guys, brief Euro 2020. I wanted to get some picks. We have some games today. Today, the Netherlands is going to play Czech Republic in their round of 16 game, and then Belgium, Portugal, which is going to be a very fun game. I'm looking forward to watching that later. So, wanted to get your predictions for these two games, and then finally, I want to hear everybody's predicted Euro 2020 champion. So we're going to start with George. George, give me your picks for the two games today, and then who you think is going to make it all the way.
Today you said who? Portugal?
It's Portugal, Belgium is the 3:00 game, and then 12:00 is Holland versus Czech Republic.
I say Holland, and I don't want Portugal to win, but having Ronaldo, everything's possible. Belgium is a tough squad, but Belgium, I don't know. They're just chokers. I think. I just think experience they're gonna beat them down. Portugal. They're gonna play a defensive game, and they're gonna counter attack and they're gonna score.
And your champion for Euro 2020.
I say France is gonna win it.
Oh, that's a very good pick. Very good pick. Crew, give me your winners for the games today, and then let me know who you think is going to win Euro 2020.
I have the Netherlands, and I actually picked Belgium. The whole family filled out brackets yesterday before the game started, so we'll see who's right and wrong. But it's gonna be a fun game to watch. I do think Belgium takes them. I have not been overly impressed with Portugal in the group stage, and part of my pick probably has to do with the fact that I can't stand Cristiano, and I fully admit that. But in terms of the champion, and I had to sweat it out yesterday, but I have Italy winning it.
Another good pick. I took the early odds before the tournament started on Italy because I couldn't believe that they were they were down so far. It was like 9th when things started. I was like, that's come on. For me, going into the tournament, they were way better than that, at least higher up than England. But the odds makers had England at like number 4. I was like, no way.
No, England always wins. You have to understand. England always wins.
All right, Perry, your 2 winners for today, and then give us your pick for the champion for Euro 2020.
So I'm a big fan of the Dutch team. But I also think that their coach is a big loser. Frank de Boer just doesn't cut it as a manager. And so I don't think the Czech will pull the upset, but I don't think that the Dutch will make it to a final or anything like that, because I think in the next round they'll have to play the Germans anyways, because England's losing on when do they play? On Monday, Tuesday? So and I won't get into it too much, but how Jadon Sancho hasn't seen the pitch under Gareth Southgate. I mean, that's just
British JVS.
That's another podcast on its own. For the later game, I think we're going to see penalties today. So strap in for a long match, and I think penalties is 50-50, but I'll go with the Belgians just because I think they finally start to kind of get over the hump. And my winner for the tournament, is it too much of an outsider to say Greece? Probably. But no, I mean, it's why, man? They're led by John Van Schip, huh? Yo, Yorgos Zavelas is the next Sergio Ramos. Just that comment made me, yeah. Anyways, no, but it's tough to go against France right now. They're just they're clicking on all levels. But if there's a team that could kind of surprise us all, and it's kind of turning into a nice story, is the Denmark team. They played a really nice game yesterday. I don't know if they'll be able to replicate that against some of the stronger sides that they'd have to go through. But no, I'm just enjoying watching games every day. And it's going to be nice to have this next summer as well. It's very rare that we'll experience, we'll probably never experience it again, hopefully. But yeah, but to say a prediction, I at this point, until proven otherwise, you got to go with the French.
Yeah. Look, the French that team is so strong. I think they definitely probably will be the guys that end up winning it. But for me, I'm actually my horse in this race. I've been saying it kind of from the beginning. For my favorite has been Italy. I think that they're the guys that are going to do it, go the whole way. So
I'm still reserved about Italy.
Yeah, they got exposed a little bit by Austria, and I think.
Go on.
I think because Crew already picked Italy, I have to go with somebody else. So you know what? I'm gonna go with a Fernando Santos repeat Euro victory with Portugal. That's what I'm going with.
I want to see Italy play a top team. Then I'll reserve my judgment for them.
Well, they will be playing whether Belgium or Portugal win today. They're going to be playing that top team, and I'm going to take Portugal to beat Belgium today, and of course, I'll take Holland to win. Wrapping up, guys, we're on about an hour and 15 minutes here. As always, I want to thank everybody for listening, especially if you've made it this far. It was fun, kind of discussing with the guys again. Getting the old discussions to the forefront. Maybe we get some more people together next time, see how this goes. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on social media. Subscribe to us on YouTube. The more listeners we get, the more fun stuff we can do. We've got a lot more fun things planned for you guys. We went through some things in housekeeping, but we've got a lot more up our sleeves, a lot more stuff coming up. Don't forget, tune in, everybody, next week. Olympiacos DC division finals. If they win this, they can make it into the big tournament and then have an opportunity, if they succeed there, to make it to the US Open Cup and play against the real professional teams in the United States. So continue to watch out for those guys, support them. All the feeds are free. We post them every week before the games. They're also on the Olympiacos DC site. Check out the Nico Polidi interview, guys. Legend of the club. And still is affiliated with the club. This is a really important interview. It is in Greek, of course, but we do have English subtitles if you're watching the video. Thank you, everybody, again, for listening. This is the Gate 7 International Podcast. We'll see you next time.
You just listened to an episode of the Gate 7 International Podcast, a podcast connecting Olympiacos fans from Brussels to Tokyo, from Toronto to Geneva. We are 4 Olympiacos fans from every corner of the world, bringing you news and interviews of the team you love in English. With new episodes twice a week, you will never miss out on the latest updates and stories of the team you love. If you liked what you heard, make sure to follow us on social media at Gate7INTL. Give us a subscribe on YouTube or even leave a review on all our podcast channels. Until next time, this is our team, our city and our story. Θρύλος είσαι. Στο μυαλό κάτι μαγικό.